I like it. I think this is a good move. Funny thing, actually, when I saw was John Morant tweeted out
Oh,
a Rush
yeah.
Hour meme where he's like, I forgot, Chris Tucker is like looking up this like tall Asian dude, and he's like, damn, like that's so. So I
Yep, I
thought that
remember
was
seeing that.
hilarious. That was my favorite part. I'm like, this is gonna be a good, like this could work really well for the Grizzlies. So I'm
Hell
excited
yeah.
for it.
And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Couch Potatoes, an NBA special. I know that I'm really excited to get into this with my co-host Feisty. We got a big one today.
Yeah, we got NBA playoffs ended, and it was like boom, the freaking nuke went off. So we got some good stuff going on. Let's just get right into it. First, let's go. Let's talk about the first overall pick, right? The Hawks had some issues that they were thinking about trading this pick away. They were also thinking keeping it and building around Trey Young. But ultimately, all those rumors came to an end when they ended up keeping the first pick, and they picked a player from France, Zachary Riker, with the first overall pick, and this kind of started a trend of this NBA, this year's NBA draft, where a lot of European players were picked. So
Right? What's up with France taking back-to-back number one picks and these big alien freak kind of players, you know what I mean? And it's
right,
kind of what this is now. Obviously, he doesn't have the hype of Wemby and everything, but still the number one overall pick. And I like this pick for the Hawks in general. Looks like Trey Young's sticking around at least for now, and we'll get into some other news later. But I am a little surprised that it was this guy because I was thinking, and I'll let you jump in with the number two pick, but I kind of thought that our second pick was going to be the first one.
yeah. I mean, there was a lot of rumors going around that should say Alex Starr was gonna be the number one overall pick, but somehow Zachary kind of like overtook it. And I think the Hawks they had a better fit for him just because they needed that big. They haven't had a big since Capella days, and so or not Capella. Anyway, but they just haven't had a big in a while. So, but Alex goes the number two overall pick, another player from France, who he went to the Wizards as the second overall pick. So it's like back to back French players, back to back European players. It's insane. This European football, or I mean, sorry, basketball is coming up, man.
taking
Something's
over,
cooking up.
taking over the NBA, that's for sure. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm no surprise that he goes in the top few picks there. Like I said, a little surprised that he didn't go number one. That's just what I was hearing is that he was going to go number one. But I
right.
mean, there wasn't a bona fide number one star in this draft, so not too surprising there. But let's move on down to number four, where the Spurs pick point guard Stephon Castle from UConn. He was part of that championship run there that they've had the past couple of years. And personally, I love that pick for the Spurs. I think that's a perfect kind of guy to fit with Wemby, and they could end up being deadly. I know we'll get into it a little bit later because they also got a free agent that I think is going to be good for him. But yeah, I love this pick for the Spurs at number four.
Me too. I think this is a great way to get that Eiffel Tower or some help. This is like I've said this before, it could be a great start to a Mahomes Stockton type of field where that pick and roll is going to be super deadly. And we've seen what Wemby can do with all his alien abilities.
Yep.
So I'm excited for it too. I think this was a great pick. We'll see what happens. And like you said, they made some moves that could be good for the future. So we'll get to that later on. But I'm excited overall for it.
Hell
So,
yeah. Well, let's keep on moving down. The next big pick that I noticed was number nine, big boy Zach Edey goes to the Grizzlies from Purdue, and kind of a little surprised. I feel like most mock drafts had him going around 14th, 15th ish. So
yeah,
really good for him to get into the top 10.
yeah. I mean, I think this was a steal for the Grizzlies, in my opinion. I like 80. I think he's a good player. He did have some kind of choking moments at Purdue, but that wasn't just him. I mean, you saw what he was able to do. Dropped a 40-point game, I believe so. Like, it was literally him versus that other team. So
Yep.
I like it. I think this is a good move. Funny thing, actually, when I saw was John Morant tweeted out
Oh,
a Rush Hour meme where he's like, I forgot, Chris Tucker's like looking up this like tall Asian dude, and he's like, damn, like so
Yep,
I
I
thought that
remember
was
seeing that.
hilarious. That was my favorite part. I'm like, this is gonna be a good like this could work really well for the Grizzlies. So I'm
Hell
excited
yeah.
for it.
Well, something I'm super excited for is the next pick, number 10, because that was the Jazz's first pick. That luckily, very closely, we got to hang on to from your Thunder. But I know that also this guy was a lot of Thunder wanted because he's the brother of your boy Jalen Williams.
Yep.
Mr. Cody Williams from Colorado goes number 10 to Utah. So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it. Didn't know too much about it, but yeah, I know that Thunder fans were kind of hoping that he slipped down to 12 for them.
Well, ultimately, actually, what I was hoping is that we would have got that pick from you guys, but that didn't end up going. But yeah, I saw this. I thought it was a great pick for the Jazz. Because you've seen Jalen Williams, he's a dog. He's able to go get his, and if his brother's anything like him, that's a steal. And so now I wanted him to go team up with his brother. Like you've seen Giannis with his brothers, they've been able to play together. They're
Yeah,
not as anywhere good as he is, but it's just cool to see that kind of story come together. So maybe down the road they'll play together, but for now, it's like I think this was a great pick for the Jazz.
right.
Luckily,
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't, like I said, didn't know too much about him before he got picked, but I did some research, looked into him a little bit. He scored 11.9 points per game at Colorado last year, shooting 55% from the field, 40% from three, which is pretty good, but he is a low volume shooter, doesn't take a lot of them.
right?
He's 6'7", 178 pounds. With the 7'1" wingspan, so very tall, lengthy, skinny guy. I think he's going to need to add a little bit of weight coming into the NBA. But yeah, like I said, he was injured a lot last season. But I think that the Jazz, they were just super excited for him. I guess even if they had the number one pick, this was coming from Tony Jones of the Athletic. Said if they had the number one pick, that he still had a high chance of being picked.
Wow.
So yeah, I guess this was really their guy, and they wanted him the whole way.
I mean, he looks like a really talented player, and if, like I said, if he's anything like his brother,
Hmm.
yeah, I would definitely try to get him at number one, number two, number three, wherever you end up falling. So that's cool
Right.
that they were all set on him from the start.
Yeah.
Um, and that is like, I mean, that just means they were committed to him no matter where he fell. So
Right. And
exciting news for Jazz fans.
it makes sense because he's an athletic big wing, which is the type of guy we like. Can guard multiple positions. That's kind of Utah's dream right now. It seems like so.
Yeah.
Yeah, super excited for him. And like you said, hopefully down the road, him and Jalen can play together in Utah, and that will be the Jazz will be.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. That was sweet. He snuck that one in. Oh
Yeah, I'm
man. Well,
excited about him for sure.
let's go ahead and get into some OKC news. So OKC had their pick, which was their first pick, was the 12th overall pick. They ended up picking a player from Serbia. So here we go again with the European players. Nikola Topic. The joke is that I'm hoping he turns out to just like Jokic.
Well,
They're just
sounds the
cousins.
same, and they're from the same country, so maybe.
So I love this. I love this draft pick just because everybody was kind of scared of him because he was injured. He got injured during the combine or something like that. So like nobody wanted to really pick him. I love this because he can be really complimentary to Chill and Jet, where he could either give him time to rest or they could play big and have two big guys there that can shoot, that can
Yep.
pass, that can literally do anything, and it gives them time to grow with that young team who was the number one seed in the Western Conference or Western Conference. And
Conference,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I'm excited for it. I love it. I think that this was a great pick for them. I did want to mention there was one more pick that I was really excited about. We didn't actually end up picking him, but I'll get to that here in a little bit. Let me hear your thoughts on that pick.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, like you said, this guy can fit in. Don't know too much about him, but it sounds like, it's a guy that Thunder wanted, and when you pick someone who has that question marks that high, I think it says that they believe in him. So
Yep.
it'll be exciting to see how he kind of fits into that young bunch that you guys already got, and then the next 25 picks that you still have in the next couple of years, like you're saying. So,
Well, like this is a great pick, like we said. And actually, speaking of the draft picks that we have, this next player we ended up picking him at the well, we didn't pick him up. I forgot who we actually got drafted by. Gosh, anyway, Brooklyn. So New York ended up taking him.
oh,
Um, but we actually traded him for him. We gave away 5 second round picks for this player. So
jeez.
now we're down to just 50 in the next 5 years. But he's from good old Wildcats, baby. He's from Weber State. Dylan Jones.
Hell yeah.
He was the 26th overall pick. He actually has some interesting, kind of little bit of like fun fact for you. He's 6'6", played at Weber State, and then he also finished first in school history for steals, second assist, third in rebound, and then fifth in points. The interesting part of it too is he is the first player in Division One in the last 3 decades to have 600 points, 300 rebounds, and 160 assists and 60 steals in a single season. So
Wow.
that's saying a lot about why they did it. I'm really excited for it. I think this was a I when I was watching the draft, I was like, why did we trade that many draft picks? Like that just doesn't make sense. I was kind of getting irritated,
Yeah.
but to learn that he's from Weaver State and then the things he's also been done, um, I'm excited for it. It just sounds like another Jalen Williams. He's actually a big dude. Everybody
Mhm.
was saying he's a tight end kind of player, so freaking somehow OKC just keeps getting better and better. So I'm
I
ready
love it.
for it.
It's a big pickup for you, your alma mater, and I went there for a year as well. It's a great school, and obviously everybody from there is all that we can talk about is Damian Lillard because he, is definitely the most famous person to come out of Weber State, and he's been the only kind of pick at least in the first round, and now Dylan Jones joins elite company with Weber State first round picks. So hopefully he can have somewhat of a similar successful career, and I know I'm excited to see how he plays out for you guys.
For sure. I think it's going to be a great turnout for them. I'm excited for it. Moving on, I think this might have been the steal of the night. The LA Lakers. They end up taking Dylan. I'm not even going to try that name. Welcome to that
Dalton
segment.
Connect. Dalton
Connect.
Connect. Yep.
Connect. So from Tennessee with the 17th overall pick. He was projected to be the top 10. And everybody is talking about it, where they're like, the Lakers might have just done the biggest steal of the draft, which me personally, Daddy Braun fan, couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with anybody. I couldn't agree with more with everybody. So
Right. Yeah, it was surprising. I mean, just sitting there watching it, and it's like, oh, this team's bound to pick Connect. Oh, this one, like, and he
yeah,
just kept falling, and yeah, I think Lakers fans should be super excited about that pick. I know that it might not be the most talked about pick that they made in this draft, but
for
we'll get
sure,
into that a little bit later. But I think
a
it's
great
definitely going to
steal.
be their best pick. And yeah, at 17, it's surprising that he fell that far, and boy, I know him and Austin Reeves like look the exact same, but they're gonna be they're gonna be a freaking dangerous backcourt there for old Daddy Braun, like you said.
Twin. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's a great, that like you said, just a great pickup to help Braun with a kid that can shoot, can move. Like this is what they needed in a big, and he's still young, so that means he can like they can still build him around. If he ends up being the player that he should be,
Hmm.
great, great
Yeah.
freaking opportunity.
Oh yeah. Well, let's move on to pick number 29, and that was the second pick for the Jazz in this draft, and they took Isaiah Collier out of USC. So
Woof.
I was thinking maybe we got another guy from USC, but
Yeah.
no, I think I love this pick, and I know he was a big part of USC success last season, and he's 6'3", 205, so he's a big boy, and he kind of reminds me of watching his tape. He reminds me somewhat of like a stronger and more physical Donovan Mitchell, or even I might
Okay.
say like Colin Sexton, and just the way he plays, where he's very good around the hoop, which Donovan is too, but he does it in a different way, where he uses more of his size and his physicality than the finesse and the layup packages and stuff like Donovan
For sure.
has. His shot mechanics aren't great. That's been a lot of things that's kind of been talked down on him, and he was supposed to be like in a lot of people's mock drafts at the start of the last college basketball season. Like Collier was a top 5, top 10 guy. So he definitely slid down a lot with his play and injuries and whatnot. But I think he can be a great guy. And like we already have Colin Sexton, so maybe he can kind of mold that in. And yeah, he can be another good player for us.
And the cool thing is I think he was the leader at USC. So when Bronny and
Yeah.
him play together, so I watched their games a few times just because Daddy Bronny Jr. Just kidding, yes, that. Bronny was there,
Yeah.
and so I got to see a little bit of his games. He does is very very similar to that Colin Sexton, like being able to dominate, super quick, very physical player. So I also think this was a good pickup. Now depending on what they end up using him for, that's the question mark.
Yep.
Just because you already have that, so how are you gonna incorporate that? I just feel like it's been a while since a Jazz player that they've drafted has like turned into a star like Donovan Mitchell, you know. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it ends up going. I'm rooting for them. I always cheer for the home teams, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's a business game, and if it doesn't end up being the person they need him to be, then maybe he'll be next Exum and kind of get traded away or fall off. So
Well, I hope not. I was never a big fan of Exum, although I am happy to see him. Like he had some success and kind of got rejuvenated in Dallas there. But
yeah,
yeah, I would hope we get more success out of him. I see probably some G League, some Stars experience for him,
for sure.
and then maybe trying to learn under Sexton and some of the other guys. But let's move on to the next pick, which was only a few picks later, at the 32nd pick, which was Kyle Filipowski from Duke. So I mean, Kyle, Utah makes sense. Love it. Can't not hate this, right? But now doing a little research on him, he played center in college. I believe he scored about 16 points a game, and I want to say like 6 or 7 rebounds, maybe 8. I can't remember exactly, but
Yeah,
he'll probably end up moving to a stretch 4. He's 6'11", 230, very versatile on offense, so he can score inside and out, and is actually a pretty good passer too.
nice.
So yeah, a lot to be excited about. Is a very similar build to Lowry Marketing, um, but he's also yeah, gonna be young. He's getting a lot of A grades for being like pick 32. Like again,
Right.
a guy that maybe people were expecting to go higher. So I think yeah, that was the last pick for the Jazz of that draft, and I think so far, obviously we don't haven't seen any of them on the court, but I think it sounded pretty good, and I like it.
I I agree. I think that this was kind of another steal for the night. Just another great player who did really well for Duke, and then just very versatile player. And then he can really mesh well with Laurie.
Yeah,
Just depending on how fast he ends up like developing and how quick they can get him in there. You put him at the 4 or 5, you got a player that can really do anything, and you can put him at the 4, or I mean at the 3 too. So
yeah,
uh, great pickup. Now the questions are surrounding around Laurie. So what do you do about that situation? Is he thinking this is his replacement and he doesn't go and he goes out of his way, or what's your thoughts on that?
Right. I don't think so. I mean, you can't not at pick 32 for sure. It's not like there was Wemby. It's not like he's Wemby and it's like, okay, we can get rid of Lowry now. Wemby's going to be
For
our
sure.
guy. Can't say that about Kyle, but maybe it's a guy that, can, similar to what I was saying, like with Collier and Sexton, that he can develop and use the G League to kind of take, a few years. And we'll see. Yeah, we'll get into that Lowry situation a little bit later with our free agency section, but yeah, it's you don't know what's going to happen. That's for sure. So
For sure.
maybe it's insurance. But yeah, I wouldn't say you're expecting to replace him right away. But maybe it is insurance. You want to try to get a guy that's similar in build and
Sweet.
skill set.
No, I mean that makes sense. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye out on that one because I know we got some news surrounding Laurie. So you think
Hmm.
that the Jazz are gonna do anything big with him yet, or
With Larry Markkinen,
like yeah, what how high is the how high is he on the list of like making sure that some kind of deal comes to him?
yeah. But I hope it's high. Me personally,
Yeah,
now hearing the other things, I'm not too sure. Um, yeah, we'll have to look at that when we're like in our trading in our free agency section for sure. But
yeah.
yeah, it's getting a little worried. It's getting a little worried for sure. So before I get too panicked, let's move on to a pick that I know you were
Let's do
very,
it.
very excited to talk about.
Let's do it, baby. This is the one pick I watched the whole entire second draft or second round for. So, um, Daddy Bronny. Just kidding. I gotta stop saying that. That sounds
Yeah,
weird.
no, not for
Uh,
Bronny.
no, no. So Bronny James, surprise, was picked with the 55 with the 55th overall pick. The Lakers are on the clock. With the 55th pick of the NBA 2024 draft, the Lakers select point guard from USC, Bronny James.
There you go, baby. There
My
you go. This,
my guy got to come to play with his dad, and oh my gosh, man, what? Like, first off, let's give flowers where it's due, right? Bronny just being able to come back from where he was 10 months ago,
hmm
to where he is now, being able to be drafted by the team that his dad plays for, and let alone to be drafted by the Lakers organization.
Yep.
Yikes! So this was a great pick. There was some rumors going around that Rich Paul, obviously he's always in the news anytime LeBron is, but he is the business partner of LeBron James and family and like just the agent for everything. I
Yep.
guess he called teams and told them not to draft Bronny or he'd go play overseas in like Australia or so he was pulling strings,
Nobody
man.
wanted him anyway, Rich. I don't know what you're worried about.
The thing is, though, I think that that's interesting because you saw me, and I would bring up all this, the rumors of the Timberwolves wanted him, the Suns wanted him,
Yep.
the Mavs wanted him, and I told you about my vision with the Mavs. So like it just I don't know, maybe he did pull something and nobody wanted to draft him, but that just kind of like created a big sense for me where I'm like, let the man make his own like mark. Don't like why would you have to do that? So
Yeah. Nope. I 100% agree with that, and I think that it's gonna be interesting to see. I hope that they let him play in the G League. I think that he's definitely gonna need it. Um,
yeah,
and yeah, like let him have his own, mark on the league, and not just be, LeBron James Jr. He can be Bronny James and be
yep,
himself, and maybe carve out a good, successful career for him. Because like we talked about before, we thought that he didn't really belong in the draft, that he should go back to college or play overseas or play somewhere, where he can continue to develop. But
for sure.
they made the decision to jump in, and Man, I wanted to talk to you about this. I've been waiting because I know how much you love your boy Stephen A. And it was just so funny because, draft day, it's huge and everybody's talking about Bronny, obviously, right? So they're on their draft show and he starts out the day with like, if the Lakers draft Bronny, that's going to be a huge distraction for everybody that's in the locker room. That's all it's going to be talked about. It's going to cause rifts with teammates and coaches and whatnot, and it's going to just be too much of a distraction. Well, then after the pick's made, in the very same show, the same day, he goes, how can this get any better for the Lakers? It can rejuvenate LeBron's career, possibly add more motivation for him to get success and, win a championship and stuff. And I'm like, because I didn't watch both videos until like the end of the day. I didn't have time, and I'm like, wait a minute, you just said distraction. Now it's gonna be the best thing that happened to the Lakers franchise.
Yeah,
Like, come on, bro. If that ain't media, if that ain't Stephen A, I don't know what is.
man. Stephen A is the guy that would say one thing and then turn around the next to freaking bite you in the butt. He's a freaking great analyst and like fun to watch as much as I hate him. But when it comes to basketball, I almost think he's an idiot, dude. Like, and it's not because I don't like him, but it's just like he doesn't seem to like know what's going on almost, you know?
Right.
Like he's so good at football, he's so good at all the other stuff, but then basketball comes around, and maybe it's just because I hate that TNT crew. Like, it's just so
Or the
they just
ESPN
don't mold
crew.
or ESPN crew. Yeah, sorry, not TNT. We love
Yeah,
TNT.
we love
Please
TNT.
come back. But like I just hate like he just didn't. This doesn't make sense. This report of him saying, "Oh, this would be a huge distraction," is him doing the Two Face thing where he's like, "Oh," and he also talked about the Knicks picks too, where he was like, "Oh, that's not the guy I wanted, but that
Hmm.
works. That works." Like he kept
Yeah.
saying that, and I'm like,
Yep.
Stephen A, do you even know what's going on here? So like, I love him when it comes to other sports, but when it comes to basketball, I'm like, I don't even know he knows what's going on, or I think he just does things for because he's Stephen A.
Yeah.
So this was just an interesting like little side story that we kind of like learned about. So
Yeah.
Stephen A being Stephen A. So
Seriously. And I mean, because, like, that's the thing. We're not sitting here going through all these picks of the draft, and talking about how great they are. Like, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do this. Like, fact of the matter is, like, we're more NBA basketball watchers than, like, college in general. Like, I know me,
yeah,
I'll go March Madness and then, I'll follow big names like the
for sure.
Wembys, like the Zion Williamsons and everything that kind of have that hype. But that's the thing is like we're not sitting here trying to pretend to be like all these knowledgeable. Oh yes, like Kyle Filipowski to the Jazz is the best pick that they've made, and he's going to change their franchise, or this is the shittiest pick. I hate this pick. Like it's like no, I don't know. We did the research. Like hey, this is what this guy's good at. This is how it could possibly fit in, but we'll have to see, right? And
Right,
then I feel like in the media, traditional media, it's like you have to say these things. You've got to get these
right.
headlines or stuff like that. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what I feel like he's doing there. And yeah, good old Stephen A. That's good old Stephen A. for sure. But let's move on to the NBA news section, the free agency, and just kind of news around the
Oof.
world, around the league. And what better place to start in the league than at the very bottom in the depths of despair with the Detroit Pistons?
Yep.
And they actually announced, I know we've been talking about him a lot. JV Bickerstaff is agreed to become the next head coach of the Detroit Pistons. How do you feel about that signing?
Yeah, I think that's a great signing for the Pistons. I think this is going to be the coach that can turn it around. It's just going to come with time. Like, you have young guys who will get into it, but they got young guys who can ball out. If you get them
Yep.
into the right situation, you can turn that franchise around real quick. And especially where, he's still a coach that like still has something to prove, so it's like the Pistons have something to prove. He has something to prove. So
Yep.
this works really well. I think he's going to get a lot out of those young guys and that young crew. That whole organization's like there to back him up. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's tough because we just saw Monty Williams, go there for 1 year and get fired, like
Yep.
we talked about last week, and with the head coaching cycles being the way they are, like you don't have much leeway. So hopefully he has the chance to at least get a program started
for sure.
and bring them back to relevancy. But I'll tell you one move that they think will what this move says to me is that they think this guy is going to be one of, if not the guy that does,
Yeah.
because Cade Cunningham. This was shocking to me. Not that he's a bad player or anything, but 5 year, $226 million deal to return to
Wow.
the Pistons.
Wow.
I'm right. I feel like I feel like it's a bit much. Like we didn't even see this one coming. I didn't even know that he was up for that extension and that
Yeah.
much. Like wow, that's
Yeah.
an all-star level deal right there.
No, no, for sure. That's almost like super max or max contract. So I mean, he must have done something to show that they're committed to him, and he's going to be the future, and he's going to be the light that shines on this dark times for this organization.
Yep.
I like Kate. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to take a little time to develop too. He's still developing, and if you get the right people around him, that could be a really good team. And like any team, we talked about KC building around the draft. Like that's where you got to start. Build around the draft. That's the cheapest way to do it. And then
Yep.
get those guys developed good enough to where you can pay them money like this. So I like it. I think it's a great move. They're signing their franchise guy and keeping him up for the next 5 to 7 years. So
Well,
I
yeah,
like it.
yeah. I think it's definitely like, hey, you're gonna be our guy. Here are the
Yeah,
keys. Run away with this.
for sure.
They're not only going through the draft though. They did sign a kind of a big free agent. Mr. Tobias Harris signs a 2 year, $52 million deal with the Pistons. Kind of a shocking one, although I did hear that the Pistons and the Jazz were actually eyeing him in free agency. And I'll
Yeah,
just say I'm not too mad that we didn't get him. I wasn't super excited about it. I know our buddy Sean, he's not the biggest fan of Tobias Harris at all, and so he
yeah,
was very happy that we didn't get him. But I think I'm happy just because 2 year, $52 million, so that's about $26 million a year. I don't think that it makes sense for the Jazz to pay him that kind of money. The
right,
Pistons is kind of the same thing. Like I was reading reports that why go out and spend so much money? I get he's going to be a veteran and a presence that you probably need, but $26 million a year for Tobias Harris, little bit much, at least in my eyes.
yeah. No, I J Cole look alike. I think maybe he. No, I'm just kidding. He doesn't really look like J Cole, doesn't he?
No, I don't think so.
What?
I never heard
You're
that before.
crazy, bro. Viewers, help me out here. You guys, we'll pull a poll together next
J.
on our
Cole.
next post. I will do it for you. He looks just like J Cole, dude. But I think they kind of overpaid for this one too. I think 2 years, 52 million. You probably could have done 2 years, 24 million, or two
Yeah.
years, 26 million. Like, what are you doing? I think that's it.
Mhm.
I like Tobias Harris, but he didn't really do anything to 76ers either. So it was like, it
Yeah, he
just
was supposed
doesn't
to
make
do way
sense.
more for them. He was supposed
Yep.
to be that second guy, and he
Yeah.
quickly turned into third, fourth, fifth, and yeah, just
Yeah.
not really the guy that they expected.
Yeah, and I think that's what's. I think that it makes sense to have him there and bring in that veteran presence, but also having that big of a contract under you, that just. I don't know if it was worth it too. Like I said, I would have done half that for 2 years and then see how it goes. So,
Right.
but Pistons were desperate and they're making desperate moves. So you
Yep.
sign your franchise guy, now you get uh, another guy who can get you whatever 10 points maybe. So we'll
Yeah.
see how it
Right.
ends up being for them. Speaking of me earlier saying Stephen A. and the Knicks, you ready for this one?
I'm ready. Lay it on
The
me.
Knicks, the Knicks acquire Mikal Bridges from the Nets for Boban Bogdanovic. That's my boy.
Bogey
And
going
four
back to the
first.
Nets.
Yeah,
Sorry, I just love
no,
we
you're all
we love
good.
Bogey. We love Bogey. As Jazz fans, it's my fiance's favorite player too. She was pissed when we had to trade him away, but he was good for the Knicks. So
Yep.
yeah, he going back to the Nets. I think that's where he was before we got him. No, he was at the Pacers. So it was Nets and then Pacers then Jazz. But yeah, interesting. And but as excited as I am about that, I think Nets fans are excited for the rest of the stuff that you're about to get into.
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, I don't know if it's exciting to be honest because they're unprotected.
Hmm.
So they get four first round unprotected first round picks, one protected first round pick, and one unprotected pick swap and a second round pick. So they got a haul out of that, which I don't know if I, I'm gonna be honest. I just don't know if Mikal Bridges is worth that much.
Yeah, that's Mikhail is a dog. Don't get me
Yep.
wrong. Like he was
Yep.
definitely the number one guy for the Nets, and I know he was good for the Suns too. It was kind of like we talked about with the Suns, where they traded away all these really good role players, and I think Mikhail Bridges is a step above role player. I don't know if I'd
Yeah.
call him quite an all-star or like the leader
Yep.
of a team,
Agreed.
but he won't have to be that with the Knicks, and they get another Nova boy. So now it's up to four
Yep.
people who played at Villanova on the same team there with the Knicks. So I think that's great. I think it's a wow, yeah, like quite a haul that you're giving up, but it's a move that's saying like, hey, this is a missing piece, and that we need to go get it because that, and he could be with that same Knicks team. If you add Mikal Bridges into that, they probably beat the Pacers, and they might have the Celtics. They might give them a run for their money. I don't think they're quite on that level, but it's a guy that makes it definitely worth it. I mean, I know the Jazz and the Rockets were interested in him, as the reports that I had read, and I would have loved him in Utah. I
Yeah.
think he would have been perfect with Lowry and everything. That is quite a haul, and I can see why Danny Ainge didn't, trade for him if that's what the
Yeah.
price was going to be.
Sure.
But I think it makes the Knicks better, and the Nets are just going to be, set up for the future. So they're going to
Well,
kind of go for that route again.
they have that busted old man, busted shot, busted back, busted everything Simmons. So
Oh, yeah.
they
I
have to
honestly
figure out.
forgot that he was there, man. That's how
Yeah, they have to figure out
relevant
the
he's
way to.
been.
Yeah, literally, he doesn't even. I don't even think anybody thinks he's in the league, just like you said. So they got
Yep,
to figure out how to rebuild from that. And then when they had Durant, like they just gave away so much, and James Harden. So I think this is their way of saying, okay, we messed up, so let's see what we can get out of from
right,
this. Especially, I know that they're unprotected, right? So there's a good chance that those may not turn out to be the best. But getting that much for a player like Mikal Bridges, which is another role player, a good role player, good sixth man of the year possibility, but don't know if it was worth that much pick. So good,
right,
good for the Nets to kind of turn it around. So and like you said, if the Jazz would have gone and the Rockets have been heavily trying to get people. So
yep,
should be interesting to see how the rest of the off season goes with this whole free agency signing.
right.
Let's just continue on with this free agency signing. We know we got a lot of juice. So next one, OG. I can never say his name correctly though. Ananobi.
Hey,
He's
yes, there you
Yeah, I
go.
can never fully say it right, but
You
I know
know what
OG
it
my boy. So he
sounds.
signs a 5-year deal with the Knicks worth 212.5 million dollars, and that's millions.
The New York Knickerbockers, they're just going for it, aren't they? Holy
Yep.
hell.
So
Um,
big
yeah,
signing.
yeah, big signing. And I know he was rumored to maybe be going somewhere else, is kind of what it sounded like at the start. And no,
Yep.
he stays right there. And gosh, that Knicks team just gets deeper and deeper. So it looks like Knicks fans, you can finally rejoice. Like ownership
Stephen
and
A.
everybody is they're at least trying something.
Right.
They're definitely not mailing it in. So, and I like OG Anunoby. I think that he
Me too.
instantly made the Knicks better
Yep.
last year once they traded for him. So can't be too mad about that for either for the Knicks.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think elevated everybody on that team, gave him a presence of a wing player, defender, and I mean, you're just pretty much securing the future. So,
Yep.
and soon these teams that you're competing against won't have those superstars that you're going against, and you're creating superstars for the future. So, I love it. I think this is a great pick, and not great pick. Sorry, a great signing for them,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
look at the long term. So,
It's hard to get the
now,
draft brain and then the like free
yeah,
agency brain. I did the same thing. It was like pick,
right.
no, signing. But yeah, yeah,
So,
definitely a great signing for him.
and
Or
then
pick,
another
whatever one.
big news, freaking the other New York team had to make some kind of big splash. So they signed Nick Nick Call.
Nick Claxton.
Let me get there. Nick Claxton to a 4-year, $100 million deal. So, ooh, now they're going after and trying to secure something. They said they're making moves. We got money too. We are in New York, so
Yep.
let's spend that
Well, that's a. I think it's a good pick. I know that he's younger. He reminds me kind of the Rudy Gobert type build,
money. Yeah.
and what he can do as far as skill wise, both offensively and defensively. But it's not too bad of a deal. 4 years, 200 or 100 million. You got about 25 a year for a young guy. I know that actually Rudy had that deal with Utah, and obviously worked out for us, especially for those 4 years, because now he's making a lot more.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I like that for the Nets and Nick Claxton getting some good money, and still time to prove that he can deserve more of the max kind of money and stuff like that.
Yep.
So not
I
bad for the
agree.
Nets to sign a young guy like that.
Yep. Again, securing the future. So, and he did really well for them last year. He kind of was like their guy to basically do anything because they didn't have anybody else doing anything else except Mikael Bridges. So,
Right. Yep. Well, let's move on down to let's take our talents to South Beach. There you go. We got another
Daddy
Daddy Brown
Brody.
comment, and let's talk about the Miami Heat extending center Bam Adebayo to a 3-year, $166 million max deal. No surprises here. I'm surprised it was only a 3-year deal, I guess. So maybe there is one surprise, but I mean, him getting the max, he's a freaking dog. He's a baller, both offensively and defensively, and he can, he's more versatile. Like I think that was a big um, controversy was that Adebayo can guard way more positions than Rudy. Obviously
Yep.
Rudy's down there in the paint. Adebayo can get out there on the perimeter and stuff, but he's also so dominant in the paint. So
Yep.
yeah, I know Heat fans can't be too upset about this one because I know they're big fans of Bam Adebayo and sticking in South Beach for another few more years.
Yeah, I think the only shocking and surprising part of this was that it was only 3 year. I would think for that kind of money, you would be getting another 4 or 5 years out of it.
Yeah,
So that was the only shocking thing. I love it too. I think Bam has done a lot for Miami, and especially like you said, he can guard the any position 1 through 5, and he could also guard the perimeter, and he can be the guy to be the presence in the paint. So I love it. I think that they could have probably got one more year out of it instead of just 3 years. But
yeah,
maybe they're looking at it as a hey, maybe we'll revisit it again in a couple 3 years, like maybe do another team option on it or whatever it is and see how it goes. So, but three
right.
years is kind of a shocking a little bit for me too.
I almost wonder too. Now that I'm thinking about it, I have to look into this. Maybe he had 2 years left on his deal still, and maybe you
Okay,
can just have a
that
five-year
makes
total
sense.
deal.
Yeah, that makes
Maybe now
sense.
that I'm thinking about it, right? Because it really does make sense. So we'll have to
Yep.
definitely look into that and see if maybe that's why. But let's keep it going with some Heat news. And this was Kevin Love. So it started out that he declined his $4 million player option, but both sides were enthusiastic about a new deal. And it did not take long because I think it was the day after I read that report that he got a 2-year, $8 million deal to return to the Heat. But it was 8 million plus. So now we're talking about kind of our first deal that has like incentives, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
because it's the same amount of money. 2 years, 8 million. That's 4 million a year, which he just declined. So I'm thinking they have, incentive-based thing, and then for the Heat, it's awesome. It's a low-risk salary, and he would have had the same if he accepted his option anyway. But now you get
Yeah.
him for 2 years, so I think he's liked his role down there in Miami. He's gotten pretty comfortable with it, so sure not Heat fans got to be happy about this one too.
Oh no, for sure. I think the like you said, they got 2 years out of it for the basically the salary per year that he wanted, and that he
Hmm.
declined. So maybe they were just looking to see if they could get one more year out of him. Um, I actually don't even remember him being. I don't remember him being very relevant this last actually season. So
Yeah,
I don't even remember him being relevant since the LeBron days with. So I haven't really paid attention to Kevin Love, but I think that it was something that they both wanted to do, and they got to keep him. I don't know if it's worth the 8 million or whatever ends up being 10 million.
yeah,
Just because he hasn't been relevant, he's been injured quite a bit too, and he's getting into that age, that old age where a big only is going to do so much, and he's well known for a guy who can shoot, rebound,
yeah.
be able to dominate the paint. So now he's getting into that older age. So it's like, well, what can he really do? So interesting
Right.
signing for me for sure.
I think they're gonna, keep him as the seventh, eighth kind of guy on the roster. He's gonna get just a few minutes per game. He's a bigger name than he is like player these days. I feel like, and
For
his
sure.
days of dominating, I think the paint and everything is a little past. But yeah, but spot up corner three kind of shooter guy that they could definitely use, like, is probably what you'll see him, come in the second quarter, third quarter maybe, and
Yeah.
just try to help because he's a guy that can still start, runs. If he gets a little momentum going, when you knock down two, three threes, it'll definitely, jumpstart your franchise. So excited to
Right.
see it for Kevin Love. Always liked him. He's a nice guy, and everything. So hopefully he has more success. But let's stay in Florida. Let's go to Orlando, and let's talk about the Magic because I was definitely interested to see this because I thought that the Magic and Joe Ingles had a pretty good relationship going, but they ended up declining his $11 million team option.
Wow.
But both sides are going to be expected to continue dialogue in free agency. So doesn't mean he's not going to be back with the Magic, but maybe for a little bit cheaper, in his older age and everything. But hey, man, all I have to say, bring him home, Utah. Bring him
Oh
home. We
yeah.
love
That
we love Joe, so just bring him home. I don't think it would happen, but it would be awesome if we could.
Hey, he thrived when he was at the Jazz. That was probably like his best seasons that he had, and
Oh,
I
definitely,
know
yeah.
Wesley really liked
Hmm.
Joe Ingles, and so this would be a good like present to him too. Um, and I don't think it's a bad idea to bring him back to the Jazz, man.
All right.
It may not be hard, but um, at the same time they might be able to get something out of it. So
You
um,
already know he's a good veteran like role model. You know what I mean? And Donovan raves about what he did for him and stuff while he was there. So, and he's obviously Utah loves him. He's a very team guy, and it could be like you said, perfect for us because we're very young, and a veteran like him, especially if we could get it for cheap, and
yeah,
already what he knows about Utah and everything would be just perfect. I feel like, but I would expect him to probably stay with the Magic on a cheap 1 2 year deal.
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, that's a lot of money too. So ends
Yeah,
up being ends up being
11
something
million
that
for
saves them.
Ingles. Yeah, it might be a little much. So,
Yeah,
but let's stay with the Magic and kind of a surprising signing for me. I did not think that this guy would want to go to a team like that, but Contavious Caldwell Pope uh, signs a 3 year, $66 million deal with the Orlando Magic. The former
wow.
Nuggets guard and Lakers guard when they won that championship in 2020. So a guy who's been around winning teams a
Yep.
lot recently. So and hey, like the Magic aren't what the Magic used to be, um, but kind of a surprising thing for him to, yeah, leave the Nuggets and sign with the Magic, but gets a good bag with it. So,
I love it. I know that he was kind of like big name for a guy who's just been kind of bouncing around teams. Um,
mhm.
he was kind of really like well perceived as a guy who can just get it done, a sharpshooter, good defensive player too, and so I'm excited for it. I think a lot of teams were trying to pursue him heavily, and
Yeah,
so this should be another like good point for them to like build up that team that they're trying to build up, and they had success this year. So
I think
now
he
if it's
fits right in too, like as far as scheme wise and everything. So, and yeah, good for that young team to have a veteran presence and a guy who's been there, done that. Like I said, a lot recently.
yep, yeah, no, I agree. So, um, moving on, let's talk about another point guard who not point guard, but I mean he could play point guard too, but
Yeah,
the Nuggets traded Reggie Jackson and three unprotected second round picks. We're still trying to figure out what they ended up getting. There hasn't been, so we kind of heard it on uh, like in a podcast about it, and we're just kind of trying to figure out what they ended up getting him for. But they kind of got rid of somebody who is on the downside of age and not being able to produce as well. So
yeah.
yeah,
I know
that,
I mean, when he was with the Clippers, he was freaking killing the Jazz left and right. I swear, he just come in off the bench and, just tear it up. And he's got the skill set. I think you're right. He's trending down, but still another great role player that the Nuggets are saying like goodbye to. Because yeah, and like I said, we tried to find I couldn't find it, but anyways, Reggie Jackson is gone. So um, yeah, and I don't know. It's just it's surprising to see, the Nuggets go away from so many of their players that have been such vital role players.
right.
But maybe it's because of this next guy that they just gave a lot of money to. So we're gonna get into that. We're just gonna go and hop right into it because Jamal Murray, he gets another big contract, 4 year, $209 million
Did
extension.
didn't he just have a big contract actually?
I swear he did, not too recently, but
What
maybe
the heck?
time goes faster than we think.
Holy crap! Yeah, he gets a 4 year, $209 million extension. So, and I like I said, I swear, like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, he had a big contract, or I don't even
Yeah.
know how long it was. So they believe in that guy.
Yep.
So something's going right with that. Him and Mr. Jokic doing that pick and roll and just destroying people. So
Yeah, you don't have to tell me about it. I still have nightmares about that bubble series, but yeah, not can't be too bad. I feel like Murray has kind of declined recently, but he's also
yeah,
we talk about him every year. In the regular season, don't hear too much about him,
nothing.
and then all of a sudden, playoffs, boom, he becomes Michael Jordan. And I know you remember the game winners that he had against your Daddy
Daddy
Bronze team
Bron.
in the Lakers. But yeah,
Yep.
can't be too mad about that if you're a Nuggets fan. It's not like he's you know declined to where he doesn't deserve any money. So
Yep.
not a bad contract for them.
I agree. I think he somehow, like you said, turns into that MJ Kobe killer instinct where he's like, as soon as the playoffs hit, he's like, I want the ball when it's the last minute, and I want to do what I want to do, and freaking turns on this killer mode. So I'm happy for him. I think this is a great pick, or not pick, great signing, great extension. The Nuggets believe in him, and so they continue to ride that horse until it kind of falls off. And I hate the Nuggets. I actually don't like Jamal Murray, but happy for the guy to get his. So,
Right.
but let's move on to this big news. We were mentioning it earlier when we said who the Spurs picked because good old CP3 is still in the league
Yep.
somehow. So the Spurs signed CP3 to a 1 year, $11 million contract to go to with the Spurs.
Yep.
Two things, and I know you'll kind of echo what I'm saying. one, this is great because you bring a veteran player who has mentality of just I want to win, and to have
Yep.
those young crew to learn from that. Like he even like I think CP3 is sometimes a dirty player just because he has that
Hmm.
mentality. And two, now that young guy that you just picked up, Alex Starr, he can or not Alex Starr, sorry.
Stephon Castle.
Yeah, he can
Yeah.
learn from him.
Oh yeah.
Like that's a
Perfect.
great. Who else would you want to mimic your role model for, or to be a role model for your young guys? I
Yep.
think this was great. I think he's kind of overpaid, but CP3 comes with knowledge. Knowledge is expensive.
Yep.
So,
No, I think like you said, I have to echo a lot of your sentiments there. Like it's a perfect guy to come in for this young team that needs a lot of veteran presence, and I feel like him and Pop will get along just fine. And yeah, I know he was slated to get $30 million from the Warriors
yep, did
before
see
they
that.
had to, yeah, waive him, which obviously no surprise there. Like I remember when he went to the Warriors last year, I'm like, that's not gonna work. Like that
Doesn't
makes
make
no sense,
sense. Yep,
but like you've seen it firsthand with your Thunder. I remember when he spent was it just a year there or 2 years
I think a
with the
year. I
Thunder?
don't think
I
even it
was
was that long.
gonna say it was a year, but I remember when he got traded there, I was like, he's gonna get bought out. That's remember what I remember telling you. But he stayed, and I think he was actually really a vital piece to the Thunder getting back to
Yep,
relevancy. That year, and he was obviously their guy and helped a lot of them kind of grow and mature. So yeah, I love it for the Spurs, for Wemby, and for Stephon Castle. I think it'll be kind of perfect.
me too.
So yeah, I'm excited to see. Let's move on to some other news. Kind of a surprising thing, but I know he's kind of fit in well with the Pacers. He was a former Knick that I know Stephen A. talked a lot of trash about, but I think that Pacers fans have gotten to liking him a lot. Obi Toppin signs a 4-year, $60 million deal to stay with the Pacers. So it's some good money, but like you said, we had I think Nick Claxton, who's kind of in that middle range where he got 4 year, $100 million. So not a super expensive deal for a guy that who's really kind of getting into his own right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they got a good deal out of it, but at the same time, I don't know if he's worth it. Toppin, I've seen like to see him play. He just has a presence like Aaron Gordon does, right? Like
Yeah,
he's athletic, he can play defense, but at the same time, he doesn't have that offensive, the playmaking, not playmaking, but offensive plays to show for it. Like he's always um not present in the offense. Once in a while, he'll have a crazy. I see he's been in the dunk contest, and he'll have a crazy dunk, or he'll go flying for a rebound. But I just don't know if 4 years, 60 mil was a good deal,
yeah.
and maybe the Pacers see something I don't see, but I think that one was a little bit overpaid. So
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. I think that he's starting to round out more and not just be that, like you said, the just freak athletic play once in a while. I think he's getting
right,
better, and this deal allows them to, continue to develop this guy, but also not,
for sure,
pay him too much, not guarantee him too much. So,
for sure. We'll see what ends up happening for them. So let's continue on this train, as we keep
hell
saying.
yeah.
Uh, Jonas Valanciunas,
Can't probably pronounce
Valanciunas,
that name. I don't, not this time. Not this time. He's been doing good.
Jonas
Valanciunas. Jonas
Valanciunas.
Valanciunas.
Okay.
It
He
is a
signs
foreign name, so.
those freaking foreign names. He signs a 3-year, $30 million with the Washington Wizards. So ten million a year. He's a good big. He could shoot. He could rebound. I actually love him. I think he's a good player, but everybody's just getting 3 years. Everybody's like getting put on this like 3 to 5 year contract. So I think this was a good signing for the Wizards. You get a big that can shoot. You are still developing Jordan Poole, and you are still having Kyle Kuzma there, so you have bigs all around him. And there's questions about Kyle Kuzma's future, but just yeah, great overall signing in my opinion.
Yeah, I know the one thing that was surprising to me is I know we'll get into it a little bit later, but he was one of those names that was kind of being thrown out where the Lakers might have been looking at a guy like that, and or LeBron would have liked a guy like that, and
Yeah,
so it's surprising to see him choose the Wizards over even a team like the Lakers when they expressed interest. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, another veteran guy. He's a freaking dog. Remember when he was with Memphis, like he was killing us on the boards and stuff, even with Rudy. So he's going to be a guy that both offensively and defensively can get you rebounds when you need them and score you, 17, 20 points. Yeah, so great signing for the Wizards and but yeah, kind of surprising that the Lakers don't pursue him a little bit more, especially 3 year, 30 million. That's not that, expensive of a deal. So kind of shocking to
yeah.
see him go to the Wizards instead.
There, there's this like news around the NBA right now that I think the Lakers are just being a little too cheap.
Hmm.
Uh, they're trying to pursue their money for LeBron, and this could have been a great player to have because he can like that's the biggest thing is now you need a big that can shoot.
Yeah,
And he can shoot, so that was very
definitely.
surprising for me. Um, and we'll just have to see how it turns out to be for the Wizards. Hopefully, he ends up killing the Lakers and say, "Well, this is why I didn't want to." And they end up kind of like, and they always have their issues too. So
Yeah.
um, we'll see how it ends up being. Um, let's go into another big news where the Cavaliers head coach Kenny Atkinson
Hmm.
is very optimistic. I wouldn't say very, but he's very optimistic about the Cavs re-signing Donovan Mitchell. I know that that's been a big news where we're trying to figure out where is he going to go? Is he going to re-sign? Are they going to try to keep that young core together with Garland and also keep Jared Allen? And now it's looking like that they might be able to re-sign him, which I think that's probably the best thing for him. I don't know where else he really would fit because the Knicks now have a team that they already have, and I know
Hmm.
they've been pursuing heavily on it, but now I think they kind of back down from it. And him with the Lakers doesn't make sense, so it's just like, I mean, really, it's just like this is your team, make it your team. Maybe go back to the Jazz.
Right.
Just kidding.
I wish,
That
but
train's closed, but yeah,
yeah, yeah. But I think you were the one that mentioned it last week when we talked about this hiring of Kenny Atkinson. That maybe this is the reason that he was hired.
yep,
Maybe this is
big
who
saying on
Donovan
it.
wanted, right?
Yep,
So I would hope that he feels optimistic. Cavs fans hopefully can let out at least a little bit of breath. I know they still need to know that Donovan will be re-signed, but yeah,
yeah,
exciting exciting for Cavs fans, I think, when you hear something like that, especially so early into Kenny Atkinson's
for sure.
career there with the Cavs. But let's keep on trucking along this juicy steak or whatever you said it was earlier, because yeah, we're just like right in the middle of it right now. We're in the thick part. Patrick Williams, so he's re-signed with the Bulls on a 5 year, $90 million deal, and the reason I brought this one up because there's a lot of free agency moves. Like we can't talk about everyone, but this was a little surprising because he averaged 10 points, 4 rebounds, and 1.5 assists the past 2 seasons. So that doesn't scream $90 million deal to me.
Yep. Especially where you have what the stars that you have on that team. But like I said before, man, I've said it last week. I think that they're going full on rebuild mode. I
Hmm.
think that they're trying to get rid of their star players to start building back up, and this is just another move where they're like, okay, well, he's not giving the numbers that you want, but maybe we can develop him into a star or a good player that we can build our franchise around.
Yeah,
Um,
just
and
be a piece, right?
I
Yeah.
don't know, because 90 million, like you said, 5 years is a lot of money. So it's got to be
Well,
something that they're trying to do.
right. I think you might have been right about the rebuild because moving on with Bulls news, it I guess was reported in Chicago. Like saw it in some Chicago sports media clips today. DeMar DeRozan still on the free agent market, but it is being reported that he will not re-sign with the Chicago Bulls. So, yeah, that definitely screams rebuild to me.
Yep, and they've been trying to move, give anything two away. Actually, we don't have that, but they've been trying to move Zach LaVine forever too. He's been on
Oh
the
yeah,
trade market for a while now. Nobody really wants him because he's kind of had health issues the last couple of years too. So
an
I think they're
expensive
like hitting that
contract
button.
too.
Yep, yep, they're hitting that button to rebuild and restart. So we'll see where DeMar DeRozan ends up being, and then we'll also see where Zach LaVine ends up being traded. So
Yeah. Well, let's chug right along. Let's go up north. Let's go all the way to Toronto, and the Raptors signing guard Emmanuel Quickly to a 5-year, $175 million extension. So
wow,
he was part of that OG Anunoby trade with the Knicks and the Raptors last season, and so
yeah,
both teams like him. Both teams like the players that they got, and he's a little bit cheaper. Obviously, I think we said that OG was 202.5 and he's
yeah.
175, but Raptors clearly say like, "Hey, we want you to be part of our future with this deal."
Yep. Yep. I think that's what this whole like past all these free agent signings have been. It's been like literally let's secure a future, let's secure the guy that's gonna be doing something for us. So great. I mean, another great signing. The 5 year I love just because then you have time to develop them, and it gives you time to like just try them out. If 2 or 3 years doesn't work, then 2 year contract, you can go ahead and try to trade that player away, and maybe he might fit in somewhere else. So I love it. I think this is a great signing, great extension.
Hell
So
yeah.
must have worked out for them on the trade. So
Yep.
and let's go ahead and get more into exciting news. The Oklahoma City Thunder are doing great things this offseason. I love the moves they're making. Another great move that they just did, and they re-signed their role players. So they signed Aaron Wiggins to a 5 year, 400. Yikes! 5 year, $47 million. And then they also re-signed one of our other role players, who's the shooter, Isaiah Joe, to a 4 year, $48 million. I love this just because they were two great key players. Wiggins is a great defender, great presence on the defensive end, and then Joe was just a shooter. So I love it. I think that this makes sense for them to continue on this like journey of like let's keep these young guys for as long as we can, and
Yeah.
let's see if once all these big stars retire, let's see if we can just dominate because we've already done the late work to build up our our players to be stars or to be really good role players. How many times have we said now?
Yep.
Role players are where it's at. So I love it. Great
100%.
move.
Yeah, when I read it this morning, when saw that you put these in the notes, I thought that you mistyped Andrew Wiggins and ISO Joe. I did not know who these guys were, but
Yeah.
based on the numbers and what you said, like obviously you follow the Thunder, and they're those crucial, very important role players that you want to have
Yeah.
based on what you've told me and just what you were just saying. So yeah, can't be too mad about that. 5 years, 4 years for 47, 48 million. That's not a lot of money. So locking
Nope.
down some role players like that for a long time, that maybe by year 3 or 4 in those deals, they're ready, to get some big money, but you've already locked them down for another year or two. So probably
For
not,
sure.
like I said, I can see why you'd be excited about that.
Yeah, I love the move. They're just been kind of going around on just building around that team and building a core on that young team that they already have. Another great signing they picked up actually is Isaiah Hartenstein. He played
Hartenstein.
at Hartenstein. I was trying to say it so fast so you didn't understand. Just kidding. He signs a 3 year deal, $87 million. He is 26 years old, so he is somewhat young still.
Hmm.
He did average 8 points per game and 8.3, so 8 points per game and 8 rebounds in 75 games. He was originally supposed to, I believe, sign with the Knicks, and then they
Yeah.
kind of part ways. And so I love this move just because it shows that they're committed to a big that can get you that presence of like rebounding and also get you 10 points. That's all you really need from a big is double double. You need
Yeah,
10
especially
points
your
and
backup
rebounds.
kind of guy, right?
Yep.
And that's, I know he was he was kind of a surprise for the Knicks in that playoff run, and
Yep,
you kind of knew he was going to get his deal. So I
for
think,
sure.
yeah, I see why you'd be excited for OKC to be the one that got that deal done, and I think he'll be another great piece, man. When the one seed is keeping their guys and improving in the West,
Scary.
like that's some that's some good news, So speaking of the best team in the West this last year, doesn't make me happy to say, but the Dallas Mavericks, no surprise here. We'll just start out with this news that they traded Tim Hardaway Jr. away, um, and 3 second round picks for Quentin Grimes to the
Yikes.
Pistons. So yeah, like I said, it became pretty clear. Hardaway used to be a really good player for him, but the last year or two, he's just kind of fallen off and faded away. He only had that one good game in the finals in garbage time, so
Yep.
nothing
Yeah.
like nothing too surprising on this trade.
And the interesting part is that the Mavs. I like Tim Hardaway Jr. I always used him as the shooter. But the interesting part is he played. I think was it the second game when they blew him out? No, it was the third game, right?
The fourth, I think, when
Fourth.
they won it in Dallas, that's when he had
Yeah.
like a really good
Okay.
third
So
quarter or
he went
something.
for like 5 for. I don't even remember, but he shot like lights out on the 3 pointer. And then
Yeah,
the next game he didn't do anything. So he kind of had a very quiet playoffs, and he kind of was doing really well for them in the regular season. So he's just another player that's just a good role player. He can get you points. He can not get you points. You wouldn't be too mad about it. So it shows that he does have the ability to gain that attraction when they were getting 3 second round picks. So
yep,
I mean, good for the Mavs to make that move because it wasn't working. So
yeah. It was time to give up on it for sure.
yep. And moving on to more Mavs news. So they signed Najee Marshall to a 3 year, $27 million. This I think this was a great signing just because what he was able to do this playoffs and the kind of player he turned out to be.
Yeah,
Now 3 years, 27 million. Again, like you could have done it for 18, you could have done it for 20. Like save yourself some money, but apparently everybody's worth a lot. It's the inflation market. Inflation
yeah,
market.
right. I was gonna say because I don't even know who this guy is, to be honest with you, until we talked about him earlier today. So it's a guy
Oh,
that the Mavs want, but I tell you who I'm excited to talk about is the other signing, the other 3 year signing that the Mavs just
yep.
made today.
Let's just jump right into it, would you? Clay Thompson. Clay Thompson's heading to the
Wow.
Mavs, leaving the good old Warrior dynasty. It's finally fallen apart, finally come to an end. So the Dallas Mavericks have signed him to a 3 year, $50 million. Um, there were reports that multiple teams were supposed to be part of this trade. Um, so the Hornets get some of this. So they send Josh. So multiple teams. So like I said, multiple teams were part of this, and one of
Yep.
those was the Hornets, and so they got Josh Green to the Hornets. And then there was also talks with the Lakers. It said that LeBron actually texted Clay to come to Lakers and just kind of have a conversation with them. But I think we already knew where he was going. I don't think he was originally going to really go to the Lakers just because the many battles they've had. I would have loved for him to go to the Lakers. I think that would have been a great fit just because they need that shooter and that presence of like somebody else scoring points. But
Yeah, I thought it
yeah,
was perfect. I thought the Lakers would have done anything to get that guy in there. So I'm a little shocked that he did end up going to the Mavericks. And yeah, like we're talking about again, another veteran that the
yep,
Lakers are not able to bring in. And I mean, I get it was from the rival Warriors and all the history with Clay and LeBron, but I think that they're both at a point in their career where they want to prove that they can still win, and they would have been perfect to team up. We
for
talk
sure.
about how LeBron needs shooters around him. Not many better than Clay Thompson in NBA history. So,
Yep,
and speaking of his history, the Warriors actually came out today, same day that he signed with the Mavericks, and said that they're gonna retire his jersey. And I I think that's a real big class act because I know both sides had kind of I don't want to say like got mad at each other, but just lost trust, lost faith in each other, and weren't
For
having
sure.
great talks, you know. So I like that the Warriors did that and at least acknowledging, hey, like we would not be who we are without you, and you'll
Yeah,
always be, you know, a Golden State Warrior. So that's a class act move from them.
I agree. I think that I love that move, and there's no Splash Brother without Clay. So
Yep.
next, the next person that they need to get rid of is that donkey-looking face, Draymond Green. Force him to retire and just go to sports analyst,
Oh
whatever.
man,
And
I don't even know if
I,
I want him to do that because I hate
yeah,
listening
I
to him
wouldn't listen to
talk
him either.
too.
I wouldn't
But
listen
yeah,
to him either. So, and then just keep Steph and kind of rebuild around Steph. So, let's go ahead and continue with the big number that's been around this whole free agent, which is 3 years or 30 million. And Clippers signed Derrick Jones Jr. to a 3 year, $30 million. Boom, there you go. How do you
there it
build up
is.
for the next future?
Get a
You get a
3 year
guy
deal.
who's very athletic and get him for 3 years.
Yep,
So
that's what people are doing, right? This off season. But hey, good for him. Because he, you
yeah,
know, he was supposed to be really good in Miami. Didn't really work out. Had the 1 year veteran minimum deal with the Mavericks, and really kind of rejuvenated his career. So I'm happy to see that for him. It's not like
for
it's a
sure.
max deal or anything, but it's really good for him, and it's more money. So good on him, and I think a good pickup for the Clippers.
They made some big moves, that's for sure. I mean, it definitely looks too that they're trying to either big build up for the future or they're trying to build for now. So we have
Right.
a couple
Well,
moves from them.
yeah, they've definitely been active, and a guy that I'm sad to see go as a Jazz fan, Chris Dunn, ends up signing a deal with the Los Angeles Clippers. He's another guy that he definitely got his career reignited with Utah. He was in the
Yep,
G League, and he was like I think he was a top 5 pick, and he just hadn't worked out in the NBA, and he was awesome for us, man. His energy was always vibes were high, immaculate, and he was a really good veteran for us and helped a lot. So yeah, sad to see him go as a Jazz fan. I think the Clippers got a good one here.
for sure. I agree. I think he's well rounded in the defensive side. I think any team who gets a defensive minded player shows that they're very um, team minded. They're selfless. Like they're not worried
Hmm.
about scoring points. They're worried about getting that stop. So the team, if it comes down to the end, they know who they need to be putting on the floor. So I like it too. I think that this is a great pick, especially when we talk about this next big news that they ended up doing a couple down. But I love it. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they use them as well. So and to piggyback off of that, let's just continue on this Clippers train. They signed uh, Nick Batum to a 1 year, $9.6 million. Nick Batum's always been known for the shooter, the guy that you could always count on to get you a bucket when you need it. Uh,
Yep.
and he's also has previously played for the Clippers for like the past 4 seasons. So they believe in him, and I think they want to try to keep him around one more year to keep that energy of having a shooter in your squad at all times. So
Yep.
good
Well, they
move.
got him back from the 76ers actually. So he had a 1 year deal with them this
Oh,
last
okay.
year, but then he played the last four or the
Previously,
four
okay.
seasons before that with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, besides the Blazers, I feel like you think of him as a Clipper.
Yep.
So definitely didn't take him long to come back home, and a good veteran deal where he's still going to make some good money,
For
at
sure.
least for 1 more year. So yeah, and like you said, lots and lots of Clippers news. So let's just keep going to it because Kevin Porter Jr. He makes his return to the NBA. Got a 2 year deal with the Clippers. Um, it was so like shocking to see this one because he got kicked out of the NBA
Yep.
last season. So it's I guess good for him, and hopefully he doesn't take this chance lightly.
Yeah. 2 years. I think that it's worth it's almost like a tryout, right? Like they're
Yeah.
trying to see how he ends up being, but at the same time, it's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back from it. I know he is a very physical player, but also a good offensive option player. So I'm excited for it. I think that the Clippers are just trying to do what they can to stay relevant, especially when all these teams are signing players or you're losing players. So
Yeah. Well, I
at
know a
the end
guy
of the
that
day,
you're very interested in also has some news with
bring
the Clippers.
bring him home. Bring him home. Yes, sir. So Brody ends up opting uh out, right?
He opted into
Oh,
his
he,
$4 million player option. Yeah.
I
Staying
think
with
that
them at least right now, but I did see that they're exploring a sign and trade with him. So maybe sign
yes,
and trade there with the Clippers, but for now at least he's picked up that player option, and $4 million for Russell Westbrook is mind-boggling to me.
yeah. I think he's still a good player. I think you're still gonna get that, especially where he's accepted the uh, role player, where he's coming off the bench.
Yep.
I'd love to like to see him to continue to do that wherever he ends up going. I don't think he is anywhere in shape to be the guy, the main guy to continue like to dominate. So I love it. I think that this is going to be a great opportunity for them um, to see if they can do a sign and trade. I would love him to come back to OKC because then you can have that. If he's willing to do the same thing he did with the Clippers and come off the bench, that could be a really good team to
Hell
have
yeah.
coming off the bench. So especially where we're making all these moves and we're keeping these role players, I would love to see Westbrook, especially where he's this cheap. Dude, give me Westbrook like 2 years, two year
Yeah.
contract, like
Hell
10
yeah.
year, 10 year, $10 million contract. Like where 2 more years and he retires as a Thunder. I'm
I know
okay with
you'd
that.
love to see it. I know you would love to see
I'd love to see it. So,
it.
and let's go ahead and talk about a former Thunder player, freaking Paul George, on the move again. This guy, I swear, he stays to a team for like 2 to 3 years and just gets bored
Yep.
or just wants more money. So let's talk about it. He goes to the 76ers and signs a 4-year deal for $212 million. He originally declined his $48.7 million player option from the Clippers. So I mean, I see why he did it. The guy
Yep.
is always about securing the bag because I remember when he went to the Thunder, he signed a 3 year, 3 to 4 year deal. I don't remember which one it was, but it was a big bag. 3 years later, we're training him to get a big haul of drafts. So I think it worked out for us. But guy's
Yeah.
always on the move.
It's surprising. I know when I saw that he declined his option, I was like, "What?" And
Yeah.
then it was probably maybe the biggest news of free agency so far is
Yep.
this signing for Paul George. So
Everybody wanted him.
obviously, yeah, obviously you get that big three now. And speaking of that, another point or another person of that big three, Tyrese Maxey, he signs a max contract with the 76ers after being the most improved player and an All-Star for the first time. 5 years, $204 million contract. So
Wow.
Sixers are going in, man, and
They're
I
not
know
messing
that
around.
we'll have to see how good old our old track coach, Mr. Syme, who's a Phillies fan, feels about that. But yeah, I love it for him.
Yeah.
Especially might even be better than the Paul George deal. Honestly, I think Maxey's a young, energetic guard that has been playing really well for him. So good on them. I know that Paul George might get more of the hype, but I think this Maxey signing is an even bigger deal.
Well, and I think the big thing that I like take away from this is the 76ers are struggling to have another star where they could definitely go in and go get somebody who can score. Like it was always Embiid. He had to drop 40, 50, 30 every
Hmm.
game. And obviously Tyrese was getting better and dropping some points too. But Paul George is only known for one thing, and that's push off Pete. No, just kidding.
Yes, sir. That's
But
exactly what
but
I know him for.
he's also known for just being a scorer, a shooter, a guy who just scores, scores, scores. He doesn't really do anything else. You don't know him for his defensive side. You don't know him for playmaking. He's just a scorer. So I think this was a great pickup for them just because, and I know they were heavy favorites for him, and they pursued him hardcore. So Joel Embiid gets another guy that can help him, and then, like you said, Tyrese Maxey being able to get that big contract, he's going to be there for the long haul with Joel
Yep.
Embiid. Now, give him 3 years, and you'll be seeing him trying to get a big veteran player contract. F Paul George, man. That dude
Right.
just plays too much, that's for sure.
Yeah. I
So,
definitely, and I don't got any good things to say about him either, but it might work out for the Sixers. We'll have to see.
for
But
sure.
let's talk about another big news, a trade. We were talking about the Hawks and that first pick they had, and then Trae Young.
Yep,
Well, DeJounte Murray officially traded to the New Orleans Pelicans for Larry Nance Jr., 2 first-round picks, and a few more late-round picks. I love it for the Pelicans and really the Hawks because I think it wasn't working with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. It's
for
another one of
sure.
those things that it was just like, I don't know why you have 2 guys that play so similarly and, dominate the ball as much as they each do. But I love him as a pair with Zion Williamson and
Yep.
Brandon Ingram and everybody down there. So I think that's kind of perfect for the Pelicans.
And also, like, not like to like push this out, but like Brandon Ingram could be on the move. He's been super like he's been in the news that he's being shopped around. So I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do just a swap like the Bulls and the Thunder did with when they got
Caruso.
Caruso and Josh Giddey. So because Brandon Ingram's a good player, you probably could have still got picks from it too.
Yeah,
But I think this is going to be interesting to see what happens with now Brandon Ingram because you get another player that's very similar to his playing style. And
right.
Brandon Ingram really struggled this year, so maybe
You
that's
might
when
see
they
the
pull the book.
Pelicans making moves, right? Like maybe they'll get something even better for them and get an even bigger trade for Brandon Ingram because
Yep,
he's still a big name. So,
for
but I know
sure.
you've been waiting for this. Let's get into your Lakers news, buddy. We got lots to talk about here, and I'm going to
Yes.
start out because I know you talked about it. You asked the question last week. Will there be any podcasts? JJ Redick says officially no. There will be no more podcasts. The goal is to win a title. So I don't think there's much surprise there, and Lakers fans should be very happy to hear that.
No, I agree. I think that it would not have made sense. How do you have time to be a coach full time and also to try to do a side project that was basically a side project, you know? So
Yep.
hopefully we can kind of follow that footsteps of JJ Riddick and have a podcast that booms off, and
Yes,
then we
sir.
both become head coaches somewhere. Me
Yep.
personally, with wherever LeBron is, but yeah, it should
Of
be
course.
it
Of
should
course.
be it should be a great opportunity. So I love it. I think this just keeps him focused. He knows what he wants to do, and he's going for it. So
Hell yeah.
uh, let's move on. Let's keep going with the Laker train. So D'Angelo Russell opts into his player option to stay with the Lakers, which makes sense, right? Like, where else would he have really gone to?
Yeah.
Um,
And wasn't it, sorry, did you say it was like almost 18, $19 million?
I think so.
Something like
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah,
yeah, he's going to take that money because he's not
yeah.
been that kind of player recently.
Nope, they use him for more of the shoot, pick and roll, shooter, pop kind of guy. He's kind of re-energized his career at the Lakers and been able to do some good things, but at the same time, he hasn't been consistent enough for teams to like be like, okay, I want that guy. So good for him to be opting out or opting in. Another player, this is always going to be a big topic, is Daddy Braun. He did not opt into his big contract player. He always has a player option
Oh,
every year.
no.
So
Does that
he's
mean he's not going
opts.
to play with Bronny after all? Do you think he
Well,
leaves now?
it's not a guarantee. No, I
Oh,
doubt
but
he
no,
does.
he's not leaving. Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
leaving. It's obviously for a new deal. No surprise that he opted out of
Yep.
that
Yeah,
option.
and it was
Even
a
though it's
51
$51
million.
million.
Yeah,
Yeah, wow.
that's a lot of money. So he's probably thinking. I think if I was LeBron, here's my mindset. Right, here's another vision. I'm thinking, how can I win a championship? How can I win? You got 2 more years, maybe 3 if we're lucky. Um, but how can you make it where you can win two more championships and catch up with MJ? Maybe that's not his goal, but any competitor that is an athlete are always going to try to compete with that person that is perceived as the GOAT. So I think he's looking at it as more of the long term. Maybe he's looking to see if he can get some people to come, or maybe get a better deal where he's getting paid more money. Um, but he can stay. So then when Bryce is in the league, and he can still stay with the league. Oh my gosh! Can you imagine having your two sons in the
Uh,
league
it's
same time as you?
already right. It's already so
Like,
impressive to see what he's done. Like for him, this is amazing. Like we've talked
yep,
about for Bronny, maybe it's not the best for him personally, but for LeBron, that is insane. Quite the flex to have. I feel like that's what every father's dream,
yep.
or like to be able to sit and he's living it. So that's so awesome to see.
Well, they said
From what?
they also said it's every father's dream to see your son make it or your kid make it in the NBA, but to
Yeah,
play with him. Like, I saw
that's
this video.
another level.
I was gonna send it to you, but he's like, dude, we're celebrating this in the wrong way just because it's LeBron. So
Right, right. That's a great
we
point.
we should be celebrating this as like one of the greatest history making times of all time. So I like it. I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Uh, and there's an option that he does take a pay cut. So let's just get into that real quick. He does go with that option where he ends up taking a pay cut. So like players like DeMar DeRozan are still out there.
Hmm.
There's players like, well, obviously there was Clay Thompson, James Harden. You said James Harden's also another option.
He was, and then he's gone too, just like Clay. Jonas Valanciunas was another guy we talked about earlier that the
Yep,
Lakers might have been interested in. James
for
Harden,
sure.
who we totally skip. I don't know how he signed a 2 year, $70 million deal with the Clippers just
Wow.
yesterday. So he's off the market for the Lakers too, and kind of a still a really good deal, 35 million a year for James Harden, who definitely stepped it up. I feel like later in the season once he got kind of used to the Clippers, so good
For
for him.
sure.
But yeah, it's. I did read at the same time though, as far as LeBron, like those were the veteran guys that he kind of wanted, the Lakers kind of wanted. But he said DeRozan is still out there, and I know he
Yep.
grew up a Lakers fan, but did read a
Isn't he?
report that maybe maybe LeBron is like, okay, never mind, not going to take a pay cut. You guys didn't get anybody, so you're gonna
Yeah,
have to pay him
I
now.
would done the same thing. Like, if you're not gonna take the opportunity, if he's saying I'll take a pay cut for you guys to go build a championship team for with that money, and I know DeMar DeRozan he's not from he's I think he's from there,
Yeah,
or he
yeah,
grew up there. So like, that would be a great homecoming. He'd put up the player that they need. LeBron just needs another scorer. Like,
yeah.
Anthony Davis gets his, but he needs another player that can score, and especially
And
at this
shoot,
age where
right?
where he's like kind of winding down, it's kind of hard to not have that kind of player. And DeMar DeRozan would be a great option.
Yeah, yep, I think so. So we'll have to see on that. Let's move on. Let's get another former Jazzman some love. I'm really happy to see this. Royce O'Neal signs a 4 year, $44 million deal to return to the Suns. Now this
Wow.
is huge because they just got the new coach and everything, right? So this show, to me shows how good of a player he is. That
Yep,
even in a new regime, they want him. He's going to be a super important role player to them.
for sure.
Yeah, so I'm excited. He's a perfect 3-and-D guy for you. I miss him to this day on the Jazz, and
Yeah,
yeah, great for him. Great to see it.
I same concept. I think that the defensive minded of him kind of showed out really well. He can shoot really well too. So Bryce O'Neal, get your contract, secure your bag. I think this is a great
Hell
pick for the
yeah,
Suns, especially where they have the team where you're like trying to figure out what they're gonna do for the future too, because they've had those old guys that are all in there. So
yep,
good for him. Good for the Suns to lock down a player that they believe in, especially with the new coach coming in.
hell yeah. Well, talking about former Suns and former Jazz, man. The Jazz signed former Phoenix Suns center Drew Eubanks to a 2 year, $10 million deal. And this
Wow.
comes right after they lost or released Omar Yurtseven, kind of a same guy, kind of that bigger center type player, power forward ish. it's kind of an expensive deal for Eubank, so that's what a lot of people are saying. I knew a
Yeah.
little bit about him before Utah. I'm not super excited about this because also like I don't know. I know that we have Walker Kessler and he's kind of fallen off. So what this tells me is that there's not a lot of faith in Walker, maybe, or like I said earlier, maybe an insurance policy type of
Yep.
player. So I'm not like overly thrilled about this signing. And talking about not overly thrilled, you were mentioning it earlier. Brian Windhorst reported on the Hoop Collective podcast that teams were trying to trade for Larry Marketing, and that there is a good chance that they move him. Now, the Spurs and Warriors quickly came out as the two teams that were most interested in him, and now the Wolves and the Kings have also expressed interest.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's crazy because I feel like a week ago it was like, yeah, teams want him, but there's no chance. Like the priority is extending Lowry, and
For
now
sure.
it's just like flip flopped. So
Yeah.
you wonder if it's just reports or what reports have been true, aren't true. But the one thing I am seeing is that if we move him, we have to get another like Rudy Gobert type of haul, Donovan Mitchell type of haul. Like we're gonna have to get a lot of players and a lot of picks,
For
and
sure.
I don't know that I want to start that all over again. I think Lowry's good enough to build around. I know he was a little bit injured last year, didn't make the All Star team, but he was an All Star starter, the year before and the most improved player. So he's clearly the guy that can step up for you. So let's just build around him, not start the rebuild over again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the interesting part about this is I thought Laurie was going to be here for the long haul, especially where you got rid of two of your long term players that you had.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm just kind of interested to see what ends up happening with this because I know it's been popping up everywhere. I think if he doesn't stay with the Jazz, the perfect fit would be honestly the Warriors. Can you imagine him and Steph that pick
Yeah.
and roll where he especially where he can shoot, and be that presence that Steph really needs right now, especially if Draymond Green ends up retiring, which we pray and hope. Um, and so
Yeah.
I think that would be a good like signing for the Warriors if they end up going that way, or not signing, but trade for them.
Hmm.
Um, Now, what did the Jazz get from the Warriors? I'm not sure. I don't even know what the Warriors have because they, for the
Steph Curry.
longest time, they literally have had uh, the dynasty.
Right.
So, like,
They got a
they
lot of
had,
younger players now for sure. I know, like you got
yeah,
guys like Kaminga and Gary Payton and stuff.
yep,
They got a lot of young guys. Obviously, Steph's not going anywhere, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I hope the next time that we talk to you guys, it's not Lowry is traded, but hopefully it's extended. But
could be a possibility.
it's
Anything's
looking not
happening.
super good.
Yep.
Talk about a guy that is extended and definitely isn't going anywhere, and we knew that he wasn't. Let's get into some Celtics news. The Boston Celtics give Jason Tatum a 5-year, $315 million supermax deal that makes it the richest contract in NBA history.
Hey, I said this earlier. These NBA contracts are starting to look like MLB contracts.
Yep, that's
So it's
100% true.
a no-brainer to me. The guy that brought the chip to the Celtics, the very successful organizations, we know how they are. But without Jason Tatum, I don't know if they would have been able to get there. So I love it. I think that this is awesome for Jason Tatum. I think it's awesome for the Boston Celtics. He's still young. That 5 years is probably going to put him towards, that 30, that mid age where he's kind of starting to like, okay, well, hopefully they've gone two or three more chips from him.
Yeah,
But it's going to be interesting to see now that they've spent this kind of money, where else are they going to put their funds towards? Are they serious about trying to? Are they in the win now moment where they're like, we're just going to throw everything at it right now, and then we'll figure out what happens with the future. So I'm
yeah.
excited for it. That's a great.
I think they don't give a shit anymore, and they're just gonna go for it because obviously Jalen Brown got his five. I think it
A
was like
year
5 year,
ago.
$305 million
Yeah.
extension, and yeah, now Tatum gets his, and Derek White, just before
Yep,
this deal came out, Derek White got a 4-year, $125.9 million extension with the Celtics as well, which obviously it's not on the Tatum level, but for a role player, he
that's
got
a
his
lot of money.
fucking bag. So
Yeah,
Celtics, and they knew they were going to keep him. That's what's crazy is this Celtics team, man, they're keeping everybody. Like the two guys
yeah,
that had a little bit of question marks, boom, got them done. Check, now they can just focus on balls. So, god damn, I think they're in the win now, and we're going to be looking at the Celtics for a long time as
yeah. And
far as being serious contenders.
oh no, for sure. And I think there's one more player that we have to mention here too. That hopefully he ends up getting um, healed up because he's going to be up for a big contract too if he ends up being,
Yep.
what they need him to be. So Porzingis, the unicorn, I call him, is going to be out 5 to 6 months with the surgery for his right leg, and they expected to miss the start of the season, but nothing too serious. I think that's awesome just because you're getting the whole what do you call it, the off season to
hmm
rest up, to get
Yep.
healthy, and then nothing to you don't need to rush. This guy's been injury prone so long that I think he just needs time to heal. And
Yep.
then if he turns out to be the guy that he was that one like game two, I think it was, or game one where he played and was
Yeah.
playing really well, he's definitely in line to get an extension as well and to get big signing from the Boston, especially where they're like, let's win now. I don't want to wait 5 years where these guys are at the end of their careers and they've developed. They're developed now. They're
Yep.
superstars. Let's win now and put the assets around them and the players that they need around them. So,
Hell yeah. I think that you saw when Porzingis was on the floor how much better the Celtics were.
yep,
And there's no question about that. And you talk about all the time how you hate to see, players not play in the playoffs and stuff like that.
yep,
This guy did, and he probably shouldn't have played in
yep,
Game 5, but he did. He went out there and he said he wasn't going to miss it for the world. So, yeah,
yeah,
definitely give this guy his time. It was a freak injury that he had to deal with, so heal him up. Like you said, you got all season to, you're going to be there. So give
yep.
him all the time he needs.
82 games, baby. It's a
Hell
long
yeah.
time. Miss 25 of them if you need to.
Yep,
So
exactly. Well,
I'm interested to see what happens with that situation for sure. Hopefully they
me
give him
too.
the time he needs.
Me too. Let's just end it out with kind of a bombshell, though. This isn't about a player, coach, or anything, but the Celtics majority ownership group is planning to make the franchise available for sale.
Yep,
So quickly, they're like, all right, we got, we've signed all these people, all this contracts and stuff, and the owners are like, I'll just take the money and get out of here, and then the next group can
yep,
deal with it. But yeah, I mean that's pretty crazy. We're not even talking a month since they won the championship. Like
yeah.
putting them up for sale, that's pretty nuts.
I think what they're doing is using the hot hand, right? They're trying to ride the horse while it's hot.
Yep.
And they've come off from a championship. Now they're like, these teams are like, oh, well, are they going to be able to win a few more championships? Is there an investment opportunity? Obviously, there's going to be people that want to buy them, you know, but
Yeah.
they're using this hot hand to kind of ride that and to continue to what do they buy in, have a buy in from more people. And the bigger the investment, that means the more money they can spend later on down the road anyway to these guys and keep these players and maybe even lure more, all stars to the
Yeah.
team. I don't know if they can handle it. Imagine if
Or
they
if
get
they
DeMar
need it,
DeRozan.
right?
So yeah,
Jeez.
so that would be nuts. I think that they're just trying to use this hot hand to kind of get more buy-in from more bigger investors. And it's gonna be interesting to see who ends up being part of that team that ends up buying him. Because I honestly, I would have done the same move because you're like, I've already won a championship. I've got these guys locked in. Like you're already setting them up for the future. Now I just want to like relax, give me my money. So,
Yeah, exactly. Well, Feisty, thank you for joining us for this crazy. I don't know if we were quite prepared for just how
nope.
crazy the NBA was, but like, wow.
Yeah,
And we left some stuff out. Like, there's just so much going on in the NBA
for
right
sure.
now, and we definitely had to hit the big points and all these. But it just takes a lot. That's the NBA off season. That's why it's always a little more exciting there's more
Yeah,
free agency in the NBA than there is in the NFL. So it's an exciting time. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us as well. And like I always say, make sure to check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and then of course on all the socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. Like I said, there's a lot of deals. So let us know what we missed, and we can talk about it next time. Until then, we'll check you guys later. See you.